Well, it is Sunday, June the 12th, and of course the fighting continues from both sides, and now the United States is stating that the Strait of Hormuz is open, while Iran is stating that it is not open, it's closed. Neither of those statements matter in any way, shape, or form. Ships are either going through it or they're not. And if any are, it's happening at a fraction of what it was before the war. And now both sides have escalated to attacking oil and gas infrastructure, so that's a thing. If you're wondering how the U.S. keeps getting pulled back into this, it's because Iran, as I said from the beginning, is fighting an economic war, not a military war. They are betting that they can survive longer than the economies of the Middle East and the United States and potentially the global economy. And they are betting that if that happens, the United States will be held responsible for it. And who wins an economic war is not like who wins a military war. It's pretty clear the United States will win militarily. It's very unclear who will win economically. That's what Iran is fighting for. Thanks.
Iran has launched a surprise attack on American bases in Kuwait, and they are in flames. 3 Iranian missiles struck American HIMARS rocket sites. These HIMARS systems in Kuwait were aiming at Iran, and for the past 3 nights have launched rockets into Iran. So the Iranians decided preemptively to launch 3 airstrikes at these systems. And by the look at the video in Kuwait, these Iranian rockets successfully struck their targets, the HIMARS systems, and by the looks of it, they were locked and loaded to fire at Iran. That's why it's still burning hours later. The Americans then responded with airstrikes of their own across South Iran. Now, despite Iran launching the strikes first this time, the American retaliation is already over. And the Americans today, all they hit was Qeshm Island in Bandar Abbas. This is it. Also reading right now, a few oil platforms in Kuwait were struck by drones. Doesn't look like air defenses were activated. Maybe the radars have already been destroyed. We have no idea why they didn't try to shoot these Iranian rockets down. Comment your thoughts, follow for more.
These strikes that are happening right now in Iran are the deadliest strikes that we have seen since the start of this war. Pete Hegseth says Iran made a mistake, now they must pay, after the IRGC claimed responsibility for striking a shipping vessel attempting to cross the Strait of Hormuz. A deadline passed that the United States set, and that's why these strikes are going on. Don't get it twisted, they were going to happen no matter what. And because of that, gas prices will stay high for an even longer period of time. Grocery prices will continue to skyrocket. Americans will suffer back at home because this administration isn't even entirely sure why they started the war with Iran in the first place. That's why for the past few weeks they've been trying to get out of it. But they can't do that unless we give Iran $300 billion. Donald Trump and the White House are inept and need to be removed because they're hurting Americans and will get our service members killed. That's all for now. Follow me to stay in the loop, and I'll see you in the next video.
America has been bombing Iran over the weekend. Apparently earlier, Iran attacked a commercial liner in the Strait of Hormuz. In retaliation, Iran is attacking the Gulf. Missiles have been intercepted with a few casualties. It clearly means that the ceasefire is yet again null and void. This war does not seem to be ending anytime soon. America says that the Strait of Hormuz remains open, but Iran refutes that. So, fuel prices going up again, loss of life, further damage, global impact on the normal human being. It's a sad state of affairs.
Okay, just watch this. Iran has further destroyed multiple United States military bases in the Middle East, with the Strait of Hormuz now closed and American bases burning to the ground after Donald Trump's reckless escalation. Trump fell directly into his own trap, attacking 140 sites and coastal cities in Iran after they struck tankers as warned. Iran wasn't playing around. They expanded their map, slamming ballistic missiles into bases in Bahrain, Qatar, Oman, Jordan, and the UAE, wiping out logistical support, drone hangars, and more, while kamikaze drones overwhelmed expensive U.S. defenses. Meanwhile, the demented Trump ranted on social media about acing cognitive exams, called Maggie Haberman maggot, bragged about gold signage at the grimy White House, and pushed pathetic propaganda lies through Axios claiming Iran begged for talks. In the real world, oil prices are spiking, strategic reserves are depleted, and munitions are burning through billions as Trump plays tough guy with Netanyahu. This psychotic warmonger needs to be removed from office immediately. The damage he's done is generational. America doesn't want endless wars. Get the hell out of the region.
So Iran has just said that the Strait of Hormuz is closed again completely until further notice. And this comes after Trump and Israel, for the past couple of days, they said that the ceasefire agreement with Iran is over, and they completely started up this war on Iran again. So now because of this, the economy is still going to get even worse because America is running through their emergency oil supply, and the Strait of Hormuz being shut down is crippling the global and also American economy. So I'm kind of at this point now where, like, you know, if the American economy has to get crippled for the remaining amount of people who still support Trump and Israel to realize, oh, maybe they're just fucking shit up for everyone and they're starting all this, maybe we should stop supporting them. Well, yeah, if that's what it's got to take, so be it. Who fucking cares at this point, man? Let it collapse. Who cares? When things get more expensive and the economy still does not improve and it continues to get worse because of what's going on in the Strait of Hormuz and how much of an impact it has on the American economy, specifically oil prices, which impact literally everything, you can directly blame Trump and Israel for doing all of this.
Iran has closed the Strait of Hormuz again after ships passed through Omani waters. This is unauthorized under the Memorandum of Understanding signed by Iran and the United States, which requires ships to pass through Iranian sea lanes, not through Oman. America has responded to the closure by carrying out a wave of airstrikes, and Iran has responded by allegedly firing missiles at the United Arab Emirates and Bahrain, although at the time of recording that has yet to be confirmed. The same thing that happened with the ships also happened less than a week ago when 3 ships from Qatar and Saudi Arabia went through the Omani waterway, resulting in Iran striking them. The United States responded disproportionately at that point, carrying out large attacks in the port city of Bandar Abbas near the Strait of Hormuz, and it also struck a railway line connecting the city of Mashhad, where Ayatollah Ali Khamenei is now buried. Now, with regards to the attack against Mashhad, that advanced no military objectives for the United States, but rather was just meant to insult Iranians, who are mourning their leader that was murdered by the United States on the first day of the war. Washington also went ahead and decided to reimpose sanctions on Iranian oil. All this to show that America has repeatedly violated the Memorandum of Understanding. For instance, reimposing sanctions, this violates point 7 of the agreement, which requires the United States to actually lift sanctions. Having ships pass through Oman's water violates point number 5, which says that it is Iran that will manage the Strait of Hormuz. America's repeated attacks, as well as Israel's attacks against Lebanon, violates the first point, which requires a complete ceasing of fighting both against Iran as well as against Lebanon. The Memorandum of Understanding, this was meant to build goodwill in the hopes that Tehran and Washington could arrive at a final deal that would permanently end the war. Instead, the United States has shown it has no intent on respecting Iran. And literally, just as I'm filming this, I just got a news update saying that apparently Iran actually has fired missiles at Jordan, the UAE, and Bahrain. But all that to say, what happens next? Probably continuing escalation between the two sides, along with higher oil prices, which will bring the world economy close to collapse. But I want to know what you think. Please leave a comment, like and share the video. It really means a lot to me, and it would be great if more people could hear about what's going on. Cheers.
Well, the Strait of Hormuz is closing again. It's almost like every president before this one realized that getting into a war with Iran was a disastrous idea, which is why they didn't do it. Because once you get there, they play shitty games like this, and we all suffer the consequences. So if they actually follow through with this, you could expect those gas prices that had been going down, to start going back up. And again, 100% Donald Trump's fault. 100%. A war that had no clear outcome. We got into it. At least 13 service members have lost their lives and hundreds of them have been injured. And the deal that was struck kicked a lot of the discussions down the road, which is why we're seeing this stuff now. And actually, Iran got everything else that it wanted, including hundreds of millions of dollars of rebuilding aid and also unfreezing assets, I believe, in the around $24-25 billion range that Donald Trump approved. Now, I'm guessing they're not going to get that money now, but the point is, Iran has us right where they want us, in a quagmire. They want to see the U.S. suffer, so by closing the Strait of Hormuz and playing all these games, they can succeed where they can't succeed matching us military to military because we blow them out of the water. But they've got us bogged down. So what's the plan to get out of this? We've spent almost $500 billion on this. And for what? Literally nothing. In fact, we've gone backwards. This is a disaster and is 100% Donald Trump's fault because he was dumb enough to be fooled into doing this. and now we're all suffering the consequences.
Is the Strait of Hormuz open or closed? That is the question Trump did not want to answer today. He was asked about it by CNN and NBC, and here are his responses.
Iran has declared the Strait of Hormuz closed. Is that true, Mr. President?
It's open as far as we're concerned. Don't talk about it. Talk about the reason that you asked me to speak.
Okay.
Trump has already suffered the loss of his friend Lindsey Graham. He does not want to go on TV now and admit defeat by Iran, by them controlling the Strait of Hormuz.
You obviously launched a fresh round of strikes overnight. Iran said overnight the Strait of Hormuz is closed. CENTCOM came out this morning and said the Strait of Hormuz is open. Which is it, Mr. President, and how are you going to respond?
And I don't want to talk about it because I want to honor the life of Lindsey Graham, so I don't want to talk about it. I told you that before the call.
Yeah.
It's open. We bombed the hell out of them last night. They're very, very evil and sick people.
Trump clearly frustrated by a situation of his own making. His biggest blunder was to not secure the Strait of Hormuz before launching all the strikes against Iran. They took advantage of the situation. They've controlled it ever since, and they still control it today. Trump can say it's open all he wants, but Iran is the entity that is controlling traffic through the Strait of Hormuz, through their military force right now. They have not been wiped out. They are not obliterated. They still have plenty of drones, plenty of capability to defend the Strait of Hormuz and attack any ships that try and pass through routes that have not been approved. Let me know what you guys think about this in the comments. Like, share, spread the word, follow along for more, and I'll see you back here for the 411.
Right now, as you're watching this, American warplanes are hitting Iran harder than ever. President Trump just declared the ceasefire is over and the regime is in a full-blown panic. What happened in the last 24 hours is one of the most strategically significant moments of this entire conflict. What Trump just did isn't just a military strike. It's the execution of a strategy that was hidden inside the peace deal the whole time. As it turns out, the peace deal was a trap, and Iran just walked right into it. Yesterday, July 7th, the Islamic Revolutionary Guard Corps started attacking commercial vessels in the Strait of Hormuz. Not just one ship, multiple ships. A Qatari LNG tanker named Al Rakayat caught fire after being struck by Iranian missiles off the coast of Oman. Then a Saudi-owned tanker, then a UAE-flagged vessel. Qatar, Saudi Arabia, UAE, all hit. Now, the reason the Iranian regime is giving for these attacks is that they're claiming that all ships must use a particular route through the Strait of Hormuz, and they can only use that route if they first get Iran's permission to do so. Now, the Americans said, of course, that's nonsense. The strait is completely open. Use whatever route you want. And so, when a Qatari tanker used the U.S.-approved Oman corridor instead of Iran's designated route, the IRGC opened fire. Now, if the IRGC thought that the ceasefire gave them leverage, if they thought that hitting a few ships was business as usual, a little intimidation, a little saber rattling, just to pretend they still have the ability to project power in the region, and that negotiations would continue unscathed, if that's what they thought, they found themselves in for a very rude awakening. Their miscalculation just backfired big time. The American response was not proportionate. It was absolute punishment. CENTCOM announced strikes on over 80 targets in Iran, 4 to 5 times larger in scope and power than any previous retaliatory strike during the ceasefire period. U.S. forces hit Iranian air defense systems, command and control networks, coastal radar sites, anti-ship missile capabilities, and more than 60 IRGC small boats in and near the Strait of Hormuz. Those are the fast boats, the swarm fleet, the ones that were already degraded back in March. Trump just finished the job. It was an absolutely massive attack. Keshem Island, Bandar Abbas, Sirik, all hit, all struck, all incapacitated. And then Trump did something the media is almost completely ignoring. He revoked the oil sanctions waiver. The temporary license that allowed Iran to sell oil on the global market, granted as part of the MOU, was canceled. The economic lifeline Iran thought it had won in the peace deal literally disappeared in a single afternoon. And then President Trump at the NATO summit in Ankara said the words, the regime
So the Iran war has popped off yet again. You have multiple strikes by the Iranian regime against Bahrain, against Qatar, against the UAE. We got Patriot interceptors flying all over the place. We got smoke rising up from the abandoned U.S. Fifth Fleet headquarters in Bahrain. This is something that shows Iran isn't playing with Trump, okay? And the funny thing is, if you could call it funny, it's like not haha funny, but kind of crazy funny, is the fact that JD Vance earlier today was trying to sell this MOU on a conference call with reporters and talking about how it's going to work out. Listen, there's a lot of smoke. There's a lot of missiles flying. There's a lot of stuff going down. And it is just totally absurd. Trump is in a box, in a corner, and it's ridiculous. And the thing is, this is actually potentially a more dangerous phase of the war when it comes to energy prices and the global markets. Because guess what? The Strategic Petroleum Reserve, we're not as ready. It's way down, okay? Because Trump, he didn't refill it. He wasn't planning. He doesn't have a national security process, and just winging it, flying by the seat of his pants or his diapers, however you want to call it. And this is what you get. Tune in here. I'll be going live here in a minute, and also more updates to come. It's just stuff. I'm just shaking my head, man.
Iran has further destroyed multiple United States military bases in the Middle East. Donald Trump needs to be removed from office immediately. Trump falling directly into his own escalatory trap. The Strait of Hormuz is now closed. American military bases are currently burning to the ground. Late last night, Donald Trump attacked coastal cities throughout Iran after Iran did what it previously did and said it was going to do again if the United States tried to direct tankers and cargo ships through its own route and not use the IRGC route in the Strait of Hormuz. The IRGC said nothing has changed. We are going to strike those tankers. That's precisely what Iran did. They struck at least 2 tankers yesterday. The United States then responded by attacking 140 sites in Iran. Iran was not playing around. They said, if you're going to escalate, we're going to escalate. Strait of Hormuz closed, and we are going to hit U.S. military bases hard, and we're now going to expand the map of locations we're going to hit, whereas before we were mostly focused on Kuwait and Bahrain. Let's just go back to where we were when Donald Trump and Netanyahu first invaded in late February, and Iran's like, okay, we're going to strike Qatar, we're going to strike Oman, we're going to strike in the UAE, in Abu Dhabi. We're not going to hold back. That's precisely what Iran did. And let's not forget what took place before this weekend even started. It was the Trump regime leaking to their personal stenographer, Barack Ravid, over at Axios the following. A senior American official claimed that after 2 days of clashes around the Strait earlier this week, the Iranians came back to us and asked, please, can we hold additional talks to try to resolve some of the issues? Yeah. Tell me something that never happened the most. It is that they said to us, we messed up, Donald. We messed up. We made a mistake. Let's keep on talking. We didn't mean to strike some of those other ships that were going through the Strait of Hormuz through the United States route that we don't authorize and that we said we were going to strike, and that the IRGC, SEPA, Navy warned through the radio frequencies and said they were going to do it and then did it. And then remember, as part of this fan fiction cosplay that was put out through Barack Ravid heading into the weekend,
Lindsey Graham has died at the age of 71, and while the impacts are enormous. And that's what we're going to talk about in this video, because as it currently stands, the Republican-led Senate is in complete chaos following Lindsey Graham's passing overnight. We'll talk about how Lindsey Graham passed away, what the impacts are, and what it means for everything from sanctions on Russia to Epstein to more. Because right now, this was an unexpected death. See, many around the country expected Mitch McConnell to pass away soon, given the fact that he's been in the hospital for 29 days without any proof of life, no images, no videos. And when we found out that Lindsey Graham died overnight, that was shocking. It was shocking to many. And I have all the latest right now, because right now the Senate is effectively frozen. Make sure to like, comment, share, and if you can, subscribe to my Substack link below to support my work. Spent the early morning hours of today researching into what happens next, and I have the latest for you right now. Lindsey Graham, as you know, died at the age of 71 due to a, quote, sudden illness. His office released a statement at around 2 a.m. Eastern time. And, well, apparently he had just gotten back to South Carolina, or to Washington, D.C., from Ukraine. He was on a trip to Ukraine where he met with President Volodymyr Zelensky, and he reaffirmed America's support for Ukraine and Russia's invasion of Ukraine. For all his faults, Lindsey Graham really did stand with the Ukrainian people repeatedly and was in Ukraine just now. And while he's recently been pushing significant sanctions on Russia, he's been the leading charge in the United States Senate to sanction Russia for its illegal war in Ukraine. And over the past 2 to 3 days, the President of the United States and the White House actually signed off on those sanctions. And well, shortly after arriving back to the States from Ukraine, he passes away from a sudden illness. We don't know what the illness was. It sounds like a heart attack. This morning, flags at the White House have been lowered to half staff by the president. Here's what happens next. Lindsey Graham's death has triggered a fast-moving special election to fill South Carolina's Senate seat, with Republicans facing an August primary for a full 6-year term. There will be a special primary election. The special primary election in the Republican Party will take place on August 11th. If there is a runoff needed, it will take place on August 25th. The Republican nominee will then face Annie Andrews, the Democratic nominee, in November. Trump says he has someone in mind. We're going to talk about what the president's reaction was to Lindsey Graham's death shortly. In the meantime, Governor Henry McMaster of South Carolina will be appointing an interim senator to serve through the end of the year, though state law does not actually specify how fast he has to act. Lieutenant Governor Pamela Abbott is viewed as the leading possibility, given the fact that she has a close relationship with McMaster, was previously endorsed by Trump. Other possible candidates include Nancy Mace, Joe Wilson, Mark Lynch, potentially even Nikki Haley. So we'll see what happens next. But as it currently stands today, the Republican Senate agenda is frozen. Mitch McConnell remains in the hospital. Lindsey Graham has died. Given those two, the Republican majority has slimmed to just 51 seats. They can afford to lose only one seat, which means things like the Save America Act are not going anywhere. And even President Trump acknowledged that this morning.
He was, Mr. President, and I know that we are all just absorbing this news. We are all in shock. Can you tell us, Mr. President, how you received this news and your immediate gut reaction when you heard it?
So what makes it even stranger is that I got a call last night sometime at, the early evening, maybe in the 7s, and he called and he said, we're all set for the Save America Act. He was pushing the Save America Act like crazy. He got back, said he just landed from Ukraine. I said, that's a long trip to make. He said, he sounded a little tired, but perfect, but a little bit tired. Had a right to be. And he was a worker. He was really a worker, but he sounded great, actually. But he actually said he was tired, but he wanted to pass the Save America Act. And I said, well, we're going to get it done, Lindsey. We're going to get it done. I'll see you soon. We thought maybe we might even meet today. And then that was it. And that was, very around the time. It couldn't have been much longer. It could have been his last call. I don't know exactly, but I got a message about 1 o'clock in the morning from one of the people at his office that he had passed away. I said, I just can't believe it.
I just can't believe it. And the Save America Act is dead. Even President Trump acknowledges that.
They like him. He was so intense. I mean, he literally called me about the Save America Act. That's why that's where I heard it. Think of it. He's traveling for many, many hours. That's a long flight. That's a long trip. And he, calls me about the Save America Act. He thought we were going to get it passed.
Do you remember
This is a big blow to the Save America Act, let me tell you.
Do you remember, Mr. President, what was the last thing you said to him?
This is a big blow to the Save America Act. And it's not just the Save America Act. It's a big blow to the entire Republican agenda. And I'll tell you why. Because with only 51 votes and less than 25 legislative days between now and November, they effectively can't get anything done unless they have everyone under wraps. And with Susan Collins in a critical race for re-election, she's scheduled to break more from the Republican Party. In addition, Tom Tillis, Bill Cassidy, and John Cornyn, the three horsemen in the Senate who are not running for re-election or lost their re-election bid because of Trump, they're willing to go out on a limb and oppose the president and oppose his agenda. So they're willing to go against abolishing the filibuster, for example, passing the SAVE Act, for example, and more. But it also has impacts on Epstein, and I'll tell you why. Todd Blanche, the acting attorney general, is scheduled to have his confirmation hearing in front of the United States Senate Judiciary Committee this week in 3 days. Right now, there are 12 seats that Republicans hold on the Judiciary Committee and 10 Democrats. With Lindsey Graham's death, they now have 11, and Democrats have 10. And so they can only afford to lose one person on the Judiciary Committee. And some of those three-headed horsemen that I was talking about, they are on that committee, and they could theoretically sink Blanche's nomination if they wanted to. So we'll have to see what happens next. Trump acknowledged he refused to talk about anything today except Lindsey Graham. Take a listen.
Iran has declared the Strait of Hormuz closed. Is that true, Mr. President?
It's open as far as we're concerned. Don't talk about it. Talk about the reason that you asked me to speak.
Okay. We appreciate your time, sir. Before I let you go, is there any other final word that you want the American people to know about Lindsey Graham? What was it about?
I think his finest moment was his defense of Brett Kavanaugh, who's terrific guy, and was treated very, very unfairly by the Democrats. Very unfair. I've never seen anything like that. Maybe the worst I've ever seen anyone treated. That includes me. Well, maybe not me, but it includes just about everybody. He was treated so unfairly, and Lindsey, as you remember, had that moment. And, you know, I'll tell you, Jake, I think it was a top 10, maybe a top 5 moment in the history of the Senate. It was an incredible display. And he did it from the heart. He felt strongly about Brett, and he did it from the heart. And it turned that whole thing around. He was really amazing. That was one they should replay.
Well, I know you don't want to talk about any other issues out of respect for Lindsey Graham, but we would love to have you back sometime because I do have a lot of other questions for you, sir.
Sure. We'll do that. We'll do that.
Thank you for calling
We're trying
in.
to have CNN go in a normal path, and we'll do that.
Well, I'm on a normal path right here, sir, and I appreciate your time,
Good.
and thank you for calling.
Trying to have CNN go on a normal path. So that's the latest right now. Make sure to like, comment, share, subscribe to my Substack link below to support. See you soon for more.